you know, we have the opportunity to work with about 6,000 of some of the finest employees really in the state of New Mexico and maybe in the nation. And the stories that you hear about the jobs these employees do are always interesting and sometimes often heroic. And they also really serve the needs of our community. When I was reading about this story today, which is 6 folks from the solid waste department, it was really, really an interesting story. I guess it's best goes under the adage about a needle in the haystack when I read it. So the short version is that Lawrence Burns, who's a landfill attendant, and Martin Garcia, the safety specialist, and Nazario Gutierrez, the residential collections foreman, Gilbert Maestas, another foreman, and Roger Size, a landfill operator, and Robert Vigil, the collections foreman. And on July 3rd, you know, we're talking about right before the holiday, basically, a couple of citizens, Joanne and Bruce Dennison, were unloading their vehicle, apparently very in the early morning hours. And they had realized that they had lost Miss Dennison, Joanne's purse. So they scavenged the house, like many of us have probably done at different times, and thought, did I put that in my big trash container? You know? And then I'm sure the husband and the wife probably had some words about that, you know, as we do in our house and everything. And the only conclusion they could draw was that they had mistakenly thrown away the purse. So they were unable to locate it. And what they ended up doing was then they were unable to locate their solid waste driver. And the recycling driver connected them, the Dennisons, with Nazario Gutierrez. And it's like, okay, so what happens after that thing is picked up at 9 a.m.? It goes to a landfill that's out on the mesa. And at that landfill, people process it and usually bury it and run it over with very heavy equipment and do other things. So Mr. Gutierrez then contacted Joanne Dennison with their assigned driver, Robert Vigil, who directed the Dennisons to drive to the landfill. And when they got to the landfill, they were greeted by Lawrence Burns, Roger Size, Gilbert Maestas, Martin Garcia. And what they see is a bunch of guys with a safety vest, gloves, forks, shovels, and they're ready to go to work. You know, you think about it, being a citizen walking out there, most people don't even know the enormity of that industrial operation out there. It is a heavy, heavy industrialized operation, our landfill. So Joanne, you know, they started to dig for it. Joanne described each employee as incredibly friendly, helpful, empathetic, and professional. And they looked and they looked and they looked, and they couldn't find the purse. And so after a period of time, the Dennisons thanked all of our great solid waste folks and said, thanks for looking, sorry about it. Well, I guess every bad story has a silver lining, because as they began to accept reality, they basically learned that the items were lost, and that the neighbor called to report that the neighbor had found them. So our 6 guys that dropped everything, busted it beyond belief, showed incredible customer service, held the city in the highest respect, felt the heartfelt needs of the community. You know, they didn't find the prize, but I think they won the battle on that one, because they did just what they were supposed to do, and they got a lot to be proud of. We're proud of them for the job they did and the good stead that they hold the city of Albuquerque, and, you know, not just these guys in solid waste, but all of us that work for the city of Albuquerque and its citizens are proud and thankful for it. Yeah. James, you want to say a couple of words?
Sure. Can I see the purse?
James Moore.
Yeah,
yeah. Oh, you got the purse? That is awesome. Yeah. And if the Dennisons would like to say something, you know, I'd like you guys to say something too.
Well, thank you guys so much. This was very important contents of this purse at the time that this all happened. And one of the things that my husband and I talked about after the experience with all of you is that people are really quick to pick up a poison pen. Nobody sends flowers anymore. We wanted to send you guys some flowers. Thank you so much.
That's awesome.
And I appreciate that. Thank you so much. Well, on that, the magnitude of this job, one of my trucks, they carry about 55,000 pounds of trash. and we took about 80 loads in that day. So that's what we are looking through to try to find this purse. And it's just a great day for the city of Albuquerque, and even a better day at the solid waste department to get the positive feedback from one of our customers. We don't get that too often, but thank you. We have a great team of people who exemplify the city goals to serve its citizens. These 6 gentlemen, through their team effort and dedication to locate the denizens purse, demonstrates that service. I'm sure they're honored to receive this award, and the Solid Waste Department is honored to share in the mayor's recognition of their efforts. So again, gentlemen, I have been in this department for 30 years, and it never seems to amaze me the type of quality of work that you guys do out there. One of the 5th most dangerous jobs in the world, and you guys do it wonderful. So again, I want to thank you on behalf of our director and then the mayor. Thank you.
That's terrific. Well, with me at the podium is Commander Roger Banez from the Southwest Area Command. It's good to see you, Roger.
Nice to see you.
Thank you for your service to the city. You're a great commander and do a great job out in the Southwest Mesa. And Abel Bazan, who is our Friday's hero. And this is a really good story, too. This is really the life or death type story. Last story was about great community relations, outreach, and outpouring to our community. This is a real sensitive thing, you know, second by second life and death. So we're recognizing Reserve Officer Abel Bazan. And I always say that you never know who the most important person might be in a city. It can be a citizen, it can be a city employee, it can be a police officer, firefighter, and the like. And I think at this moment, when this incident happened back on June 23rd, that definitely Officer Bazan was the most important person at that time in a tremendously unpredictable situation. So he basically saved the life, his swift and heroic action saved the life of a 1-year-old girl who was choking. Back in June 2015, Reserve Officer Bazan and Officer McMillan were taking their dinner break from patrol, and they were eating at a diner, the Western View Diner. Inside the restaurant, there was Mrs. Ortega, her daughter, and her granddaughter, and they were having a family dinner like you would expect in a restaurant. And Mrs. Ortega began yelling for assistance frantically because her 1-year-old granddaughter stopped breathing. Ever attentive, Roger Bazan heard the cries for help, scanned the situation, and realized that the child was having a lodged airway and choking. And he immediately ran over to see if there was anything he could do. Realized the child was choking, jumped into action. He grabbed the limp child. The child was basically unresponsive at that time, positioned her appropriately with her head lower, and began tapping her back. And a 1-year-old has to, it's a certain procedure, until a piece of soda cracker dislodged from her windpipe and flew out of her mouth. Thereafter, the baby began breathing, got back better color, the obstruction was dislodged, and we have another citizen that's 2 years old today because of the heroic and swift and thoughtful action of Officer Abel Bazan. Thankfully, no other medical attention was required, that the child was actually able to go home. So we want to specifically recognize and thank Officer Bazan for exercising his training, his coolness, his ability to stay calm and alert and save that baby's life, because without those quick life-saving actions, we probably would have had a very tragic situation on our hand. Thank you so much. Commander Banez, would you like to say a few words? You bet.
It's a privilege and an honor to be up here to present Abel to the community. A few things about him. He's been a reserve officer for 11 years. An excellent person, real professional, and I just enjoy him when he comes to work in the Southwest, because he's, even though he wears the tag of reserve officer, he's as good as any officer that we have out there. He couldn't have done this without the help from his missus, who's a retired police officer. Are you here?
Sergeant, right? Yep.
And then also for his fellow employees from Comcast. Thank you for sharing him with us, and I hope you continue to share him with us to help serve the community here in Albuquerque. Thank you very much.
And I also wanted to recognize and acknowledge Officer Bazan's family. Judy Bazan, who is a retired APD sergeant, is with us as Roger's wife, and his mother. Tony Bazan is here, and I think your son is here as well, your 5-year-old son. Is that right? Yeah. Great, great. That's thanks. What we have is a small token of our appreciation, which is the Friday's Heroes coin that was specifically commissioned to recognize acts of courage, bravery, great public service, and I hope that serves you well. You certainly deserve it.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. You bet. You know, we have some incredibly talented people in our community in the sciences and technology field across the board, but specifically that are very, very good at those areas here in the Mid-Rio Grande Valley. When you look at some of the folks we have with Sandia Lab, the employers and institutions, Sandia Lab's Air Force Research Facility, Kirtland Air Force Base, the University of New Mexico, we just have some really, really good resources. And this is a great story about a guy that, as a volunteer, has reached out for a long time, sharing his abilities and capacities and training, knowledge, and experience with other people that are interested in it. And it's a new thing we're doing, recognizing volunteers. In the last years of the administration, we recognized them here and there, but we wanted to formalize, institutionalize this. So you will be our first Volunteer of the Month. With me, Len Duda. And as our first volunteer, it's dedicating a story about an individual that dedicated the past 20 years of his life to volunteerism. After Len completes a full day's work at Sandia National Labs, he then goes out to try to enrich and help and contribute to the lives of children in our community. He's engaged in the Part 1, Title 1 Explorer Science Nights that Explorer, one of our partners here at the city, does, where he goes to schools to spark students' interest, encouraging them, their families to attend science nights and get them involved in STEM-type projects and education. He conducts 2 or 3 assemblies, doing exciting demonstration for the students, and teaches them the basics of science twice per week at 30-plus schools. So there's a lot of hours involved by Len that he's putting out there. He also brings 18 activities for students, parents, and siblings to learn and explore to over 50 schools that participate in the Sandia National Laboratories Family Science Night. His daughter was in middle school 22 years ago, I guess, and he had begun to judge middle and high school science fairs, and who better to judge it than a scientist of Len's preeminence and caliber himself. Involved in judging numerous local school fairs, Central New Mexico Regional Science Fair, the Engineering Challenge, and the New Mexico State Science Fair. For many years, Len has also served as a host as well as one of the Grand Award judges for physics and finals judge to pick the top 3 winners of the Intel International Science Fair. And he's also served as a judge on the Science Olympiad Regional State Competition, the National Science Olympian Committee. He's been active in moderating, coordinating Department of Energy, Sandia National Lab Science Bowls competition. So you get a pretty good idea that this is an individual that really has taken a gift that he's developed on his own and put in the hard work, and he's taken that gift to share it with other people. And that we're probably better in this community by exponentially, 100-fold by having Len take his inspiration and his volunteerism and educate our community's future STEM scientists themselves in science, technology, engineering, mathematics. That's really the future of the world right there. And I went to law school because I didn't have those skills, and I've always been impressed with people that do. Thank you so much for what you've done for our community. Yep. Dathan Weems, would you like to give a couple remarks? Please, Dathan.
Thank you. It's my privilege to be here as the chair of the board of Albuquerque Volunteers, and we advise the mayor on volunteerism in the community. We're really excited about this recognition project. We feel like it's an extension of what the mayor and his office have done for the nonprofit community, and particularly focusing on the innovations in the nonprofit community. Reading through all these things that Len has done, it occurred to me that, frankly, he's the Johnny Appleseed of STEM in our community. And as the husband of an engineer, I can tell you she genuinely appreciates folks like Len getting the word out. helping students, catching them at that right age, and helping them along. And as the father of 2 young boys, I'm excited that they would get to encounter him sometime along the way and do one of his events. This is just fantastic. And he's just such a great example of exactly what we want to do with this, and we couldn't be happier with Lynn as our first honoree. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Great job there. And we have a small token of our appreciation, Leonard. We have a City of Albuquerque mug for you, also a certificate of the mayor's volunteerism program that recognizes your accomplishments. And Mayor Berry, I know, wants you to have this and proudly provide it to you. Thank you so much,
Thank
Len.
you very much.
You bet. And I don't know if you're a football fan, but I do have 4 tickets. If you need
great.
a couple more for your family, we'd love to see you at the New Mexico Bowl.
Okay, thank
Thanks
you.
so much. You bet.